the adrenal range. I'm going to be covering in ascending order of strength DSF, which is the de-stress formula, its counterpart DSF Herbal, Adrenal Plus, which is a herbal only tincture, core level adrenal, which is a step up in terms of potency of the adrenal glandular, and then finally Adrenal Life Plus, which is the most potent adrenal glandular that we have in the range. So why do we want to use glandulars? Well, it provides us a direct structural and nutritional support to allow it to regenerate and repair back to normal function. So herbs are very useful, particularly initially in the resistance phase, but if they're used on their own, and particularly when they're in the exhaustion phase, it can lead to a whipping a dead horse scenario. Nutri-West were the first to introduce glandulars to the UK and has been using them for over 25 years and remains to this day the gold standard. We have a unique process which allows us to freeze dry and then preserve quality and the potency of the adrenal extracts. Just some background, Hans Selye coined the term a general adaptive syndrome to indicate the three areas that stress primarily affects. The adrenal glands initially hypertrophy and go through a stress response, resistance, and then eventually over a potentially long period, the patient can then drop into exhaustion fatigue, and there will be a crossover point there which is quite difficult to determine clinically. But we must remember also that it affects the digestion in the stomach and then the immune system as well. And that means then you can then have the adrenal gland dysfunction, and thus the adaptive syndrome will commonly underpin many common problems. Chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, chronic pain because of the low cortisol, blood sugar imbalances again with cortisol disturbances, the immune system aspect with asthma, eczema, allergies and so on, high and low blood pressure, thyroid disorders, attention deficit. So it's something to consider in many of your common clinical conditions. Just some basic fundamentals: they must be on some kind of blood sugar controlling diet because of the spikes in blood sugar and the body's attempt to produce cortisol. So no skipping of meals, snacks, etc. as needed. If we can identify the source of stress, that's not always possible, of course, in reality. If we can get them in bed by 10, all the better. And ideally, we remind them it's 1 month of healing per year of stress. Please also consider we want to think about the system rather than the symptom. In reality, endocrine dysfunction doesn't really exist in isolation because they're so intertwined. So we always consider the adrenals in cases of thyroid problems, but vice versa because they're so intertwined and the symptoms can be quite similar. Please see the thyroid screencast for further information. So de-stress formula. This provides glandulars for all of the adaptive syndromes: adrenal, stomach, spleen, and thymus to support that nutrition. They're in a relatively low dose, so this is balancing with and supporting and a little bit stimulating, but it's fine for people who are in the initial resistance phase. It also has L-tyrosine, which feeds the dopamine, adrenaline, noradrenaline pathway, blended vitamins C and Bs, and some trace minerals. So a very good balance of modulators. Some patients use it in the long term as almost like a stress multi. General dose is 1 morning, 1 lunch. Can be taken again mid-afternoon if needed. And when they're doing it longer term, sometimes they choose to back off a little bit, maybe do half a tablet in the morning, half at lunchtime. DSF Herbal is a very, very similar product, but they've replaced the glandulars with a blend of herbs. 1 morning, 1 lunch. I'd only really use that in the initial resistance phase if a patient was vegetarian or wasn't keen on the idea of glandulars. Adrenal Plus, just a simple product, is pure herbs in a alcohol base, a blend of supporting herbs for the adrenal glands, 15 drops 2 to 3 times daily. Some people like this to complement an adrenal gland product like DSF Plus, Adrenal Plus. Other people who may be already on B vitamins and have other supplements, you may just want to add in the herbs on their own. So just considering that in the initial stress response, it's possible to get initially very high cortisol. So clinically that may present with difficulty getting off to sleep and hyper awareness and so on. If you suspect that, or if you have an adrenal spit test where you can confirm that, then Total Core blunts the response very, very nicely. Phosphatidylserine plus a blend of other nutrients, you generally have two around the time of the excess cortisol if you have a spit test, or if it's an issue with sleep, then often you take two before bed. Consider also that in thyroid conditions, because excessive cortisol will convert the pathway from T4 not to T3, but into reverse T3. Core level adrenal, this is a step up in terms of potency on the adrenal glandular front. Very, very good at blood sugar balancing. So it can be used if you're not getting the results you're after with DSF, then the next step up would be core level adrenal. Equally, the product we're going to do after is Adrenal Life Plus. That can be a step down to Adrenal Life Plus, from Adrenal Life Plus down to core level adrenal, in order to just to start the process of weaning off. Generally 1-3 times a day. And then Adrenal Life Plus, this is the most potent glandular we have, and it should only be used in adrenal exhaustion. Used correctly, this really is very, very rejuvenating for patients with chronic problems, particularly things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, and so on. It can really be a lifesaver. We generally consider 1-3 times a day. You can do higher than that if needed. I've seen people on 6, 7, 8. Just depends on the patient. Please make sure that you bespoke the dosing. If they're not in the full exhaustion phase and you're given this product, they may well report rapid heartbeats, or the sensation of anxiety/panic attacks. And that just means that we've overstimulated them. So in that case, you can either drop the dosage down or simply drop down something like core level adrenal or DSF, and the symptoms will resolve very, very quickly. If you can chew it, all the better. That means it's going to act like a food. Your body is going to know it's coming. And there's also a suggestion that if you can, there's some kind of tagging that goes on through the prostaglandin RNA and tissue, and that will help guide the glandulars to the target organ. And then if you need just pure adrenal glandular, so in the clinical scenario would be if you have the patient already on B vitamins and minerals, you already have all that in place, you just want adrenal glandular to support them. There's Adrenal Life 80 and 160. These are sort of mid-range potency. So Adrenal Life 80 can be used in the initial resistance phase or for children. 160 is more potent, so you'd use that more for exhaustion, long-term fatigue, and you can go between those two depending on the clinical scenario. But they're just adrenal glandular on their own, whereas the DSF, the core level adrenal, the Adrenal Life Plus, all have vitamins and minerals built into the product as well. Other things to consider: you can't get everything in one tablet, so often they need extra vitamin C, timed release ideally with bioflavonoids, particularly mid-morning but afternoon. Carbomet is an excellent blood sugar balancing product, has pancreatic glandular, chromium and cinnamon. Chew 1 to 2 with each meal, and that really can be a very, very useful product clinically. You can see more about that on the digestion screencast. If the digestion's been compromised through the adaptive syndrome, Hypo-D has betaine hydrochloric acid in the first part of the tablet, and then it releases secondarily in the duodenum with pancreatic enzymes and bile. If they don't need extra acid, you just want the enzymes, you can use Total Enzymes, a broad-based, plant-based product. So just to recap, we have DSF and DSF Herbal for the initial resistance stress phase. If they have excessive cortisol, you can use Total Cort. We also have the Adrenal Plus tincture in this area. Adrenal Life Plus is for exhaustion phase only. That's the most potent product. And in between DSF and the Adrenal Life Plus, you have core level adrenal, a mid-potency product. And we have the solo adrenal gland products if needed.